thanks Swapnil, and thanks Econet and India Donates for setting up this conversation on rooted resilience. And when Swapnil got in touch with me a couple of weeks back, and he was telling me that I had a lot of thoughts. It was a whole 2-hour conversation with Swapnil, and I got to also thinking, what exactly is rooted resilience, and what does it really mean in this conversation that we are going to talk about today. And the whole idea was talking about solutions, right? And there is no shortage of solutions that are happening on the ground, and we will see from our esteemed panelists over here in terms of the kind of solutions that are being done and that are working towards resilience. But the idea is actually, what is resilience first? And who defines that? And also then, how do you define it within your current situation and the people that you're working with, and then translating it to the kind of change that you're looking at doing. And that is what we're looking at, bringing that conversation. And since we're all of us here, I would like to open the discussion, also keep it open. So feel free to ask questions during the time when they are after they speak, so we can have a discussion. If you have any comments, if you have any suggestions, if you have any thoughts, please feel free to, raise your hands, keep it as informal as possible. And at the end of the day, we're all grassroots people, right? So the idea is to learn from one another and to also understand and to, build each other up. So just beginning with where I come from. I'm the director of the Indian Network on Ethics and Climate Change, and we largely bring conversations of linking the work that our friends are doing over here to the larger, number one, the larger discourse that is happening at the global level, at the national level, at the state level, as well as at the local level as well. And why? The reason being is that the communities at the end of the day and the natural resources are at stake. And there are people doing a lot of stuff on the ground in terms of, whether it is on food and nutrition security, whether it is on water security, whether it is on energy efficiency, whether it is on even circular economy. All these new conversations are coming in right now. And what is also our understanding has been that while they're doing work on these kinds of solutions, they've not been able to translate it into the corporate language or the finance language that really needs upscaling, that really needs, the kind of understanding of bridging that gap between the corporate language and the community language. And this is what we're trying to aim today to do, with this conversation. So yes, the solutions exist, but now how do we build the systems around it to replicate the solutions, to scale up these solutions, and to promote these solutions? And that is what we will largely speak about today. So hoping that, and understanding what resilience is also. So today with me, we've got Amit ji, who brings his years of engagement with tribal communities, forest governance systems, community forest rights processes, and livelihood realities, particularly around what community stewardship and ownership can actually mean in practice. Now, what does that all mean, right? What does that mean? Like, it's all jargon also for me and for them, but he's really doing this on the ground. Now, we will also understand from him in terms of what does this mean to resilience and to the communities that they are working with. We also have Jayesh ji, who brings decades of experience working with Adivasi communities and traditional systems, carrying a deep belief that many answers around sustainability, we're having this synergy and sustainability, and resilience already exist within the communities. And we know that. These are already existing. But again, is this what real resilience is, or is it just, are we only coping with the situation? So if we're looking at resilience, we also need to look at it from a long-term perspective. In the next 50 years, what do the communities really look like? Are they self-sufficient? Are they nutrition and food secure? Are they water secure? Or are we just continuing to cope with the droughts and the floods and the unseasonal rainfalls, all those kinds of things, whether we are doing that only or we are looking at a long-term systemic change? And we have also Dr. Karande, who's here with us, who's worked largely on agriculture, climate resilience, and farming communities and bringing the conversation right from the local to the global level also. He has participated in a couple of the UN FCCC COPs, and he is also, got a perspective of, what is really happening on the international level as well as what is happening at the local level. So with that, I want to first bring the question to our three panelists here, and you all can take the mic, and each of you all, and please feel free. Many of them are also well versed in Hindi. You all are fine with Hindi as well. Is that okay? If they can speak in Hindi and they're most conversant in Hindi, and we can also have something we can translate it for you. So Swapnil, we can also translate. There are some of us who don't understand Hindi, so we can also translate. So just to start and situate this conversation, I wanted to understand from them, what is resilience? Because if we don't understand from them what is resilience, there's no point in, bringing that out. So the idea, what do y'all understand when we say resilience? What is your understanding? There are no wrong answers.
Resilience means adapt to change, adapt to adversity. In case of agriculture, क्या क्या चेंज हो रहा है, तो बहुत सारा चेंज हो रहा है, हम देखते हैं. वी कंसिडर वन फैक्टर, रेनफॉल. तो रेनफॉल के रिलेवेंस बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम है. मतलब रेनफॉल अराइवल, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, एवरेज रेनफॉल, अनसीजनल रेनफॉल, ड्रॉट, ये सभी चेंज हो रहा है. अभी 10 साल का देखें तो 10 साल में हमें ऐसा दिखेगा कि 5-7 साल में एवरेज रेनफॉल हुआ है, लेकिन वो एग्रीकल्चर के लिए फेवरेबल नहीं है. मतलब वो जून में स्टार्ट होगा, फिर जुलाई में उसमें गैप रहेगी, फिर अगस्त में 2 महीने का 1 महीने में बरसेगा वो. तो एवरेज कंप्लीट, ऑन रिकॉर्ड एवरेज कंप्लीट होगा, लेकिन वो एग्रीकल्चर के लिए फेवरेबल नहीं होगा. अनसीजनल रेनफॉल, तो ये सभी चेंज हो रहा है, और उसकी वजह से क्रॉप मीन्स एनी फिनोटाइप इज द इंटरेक्शन बिटवीन जीनोटाइप एंड देयर एनवायरनमेंट. तो क्रॉप के लिए माइक्रो क्लाइमेट भी चेंज होता है और लार्ज स्केल भी क्लाइमेट चेंज भी हो रहा है. मतलब इंसिडेंस ऑफ पेस्ट, इंसिडेंस ऑफ डिसीजेस, ये सभी हो रहा है. तो हमें अडेप्ट टू एडवर्सिटी, अडेप्ट टू चेंज इज द रेजिलियंस.
Thanks, Dr. Karande. And also wanted to add to what the doctor is saying with regards to the climate impacts, right? We are seeing unseasonal rainfall. We are seeing rainfalls coming in late, staying later, which is affecting the cropping pattern. But from an unsustainability perspective also, we have other issues where the soil has been degraded. The water table has been completely vanished in India. We are also seeing that there is a lot of corruption happening. These are all unsustainable effects of what is happening on the ground level. And the idea is to bring all these systems, the soil system, the water system, the climate system together, to link it to conducive policy, to link it to also skills. We will talk about that a little bit. But thanks for sharing that the idea of resilience is actually how do you now not only cope for the climate crisis, but also look at long-term change and long-term adaptability of communities.
इसमें और हम अगर देखेंगे कि चेंजेस जो हो रहा है, तो ये चेंजेस जो हो रहा है, तो अभी तो इन्होंने एग्रीकल्चर के बारे में बताया, लेकिन हम फॉरेस्ट का अगर देखेंगे तो फॉरेस्ट में भी ये जो फ्लावरिंग का सीज़न है, महुआ फूल के जैसा एनटीएफपी कलेक्शन का सीज़न है, उसके ऊपर भी बहुत परिणाम हुआ है. ये अपने को बारिश के का परिणाम उसके हमको देखने को मिलता है कि जैसा कि जब महुआ निकलने वाला होता है तभी बारिश आ रहा है उसके पहले जस्ट, तो महुआ का प्रोडक्शन अभी 2-3 साल से महुआ का प्रोडक्शन कम हो गया है. वैसा ही हनी बीज, ये बड़े बड़े रॉक बीज जो है, तो उसका शहद का प्रोडक्शन कम हुआ है. और जो यानी बारिश के वजह से जो सीड नीचे गिरा है वही उगा के आ रहा है और फिर ख़त्म हो जा रहा है। ये भी एक धोखे की घंटा है, ऐसा मुझे लगता है। तो ये सब अपने को फॉरेस्ट में देखने को मिल रहा है। ग्रास का भी वैसा ही है। तो उसके ऊपर उसको लेके फिर कम्युनिटी का जो एंगेजमेंट है उसको हम बात करेंगे, लेकिन ये भी चेंजेस है कि जो हमको फॉरेस्ट में दिखता है।
So, in my word, the resilience is the fittest for the survival is the resilient. In the current context, if we talk, we are working with the indigenous community who is the custodian community of the nature, and the nature is still available for us or is survived till now due to the resilient culture, practice, and lifestyle. So we are working with the resilient community who know how to survive. Only one thing I want to add, last week in national newspaper print my article. The name is the title name is the हम बदले हैं गर्मी नहीं. So ultimately we have changed. Our survival pattern or our resilient pattern has disturbed rather than nature. So last 5 decades the temperature has not much changed. Unfortunately, all the climate scientists is sharing every year the temperature has drastically variant, but when I saw the table, so it has not much change. In that scenario, and in last 5 decades, the AC numbers, fridge, everything has increased a lot. So we are not resilient. That is very much clear.
I'll just respond to Amit with regard to the temperature change. We are not looking at a 10-degree change in temperature. What the scientists are looking at is a 1.5 degrees from 1850. And 1.5 degrees means nothing. Today it is 24 degrees, tomorrow it is 25 degrees, that's the 1 degree temperature. But that 1 degree is why we are here today. From 1850 to now, they said that if our temperature rises by 2 degrees by the end of this century, 2100, we are headed for a life of disaster. The data coming in right now is saying that we have reached about a threshold of 1.5 degrees already. So it might not be much. It doesn't seem much, right? It doesn't mean much. What do you mean?
The concern is the resiliency of the community. The human resilient, human is not resilient. They have changed a lot.
Yeah, the adaptation.
Adaptation.
You have to adapt, right? So how do you adapt? And adaptation is going to require so many things. Culturally, we'll have to change. And why I'm saying culturally we'll have to change, look at the heat waves. Just an example. Which means we'll also have to change the way we dress up to survive. Things are going to change in those aspects. What we eat, how we dress, or your whole food, clothing, shelter, everything is going to change. How you live as well, right? What kind of houses we build.
Your thoughts have changed.
Your thoughts have changed. But they will change. They will change to survive, right? So the idea is that how do we now look at adaptation, as you were saying rightly, Amitji, with regards to what is that resilience that we are going to need to change, and what are those systems? How do you change people's understanding and people's perspective also of this change? And drawing back to the conversation that was happening in the morning with in the panels over there, I was thinking over there, and largely it is affected by the kind of consumption that we in the urban areas have as opposed to the production that is happening in their areas. So the responsible consumption is on people like us living in the cities and what we demand. And because what we demand is actually impacting those marginalized communities because their carbon footprint is way below the global average. But anybody living in Mumbai over here, on average, if you do a carbon calculation, it will be about 4 to 5 tons of carbon emissions per year, which is way above the global average. And if you look at the communities that they are working with, it is below 0.5 also, below 1 ton as well. So this is a disparity that is already there, the inequality that we're already seeing within India itself. Now the question is that how do these communities survive that, right? If I'm having a heat wave, I'll put my AC on. Do you all have ACs? Do your communities have ACs over there? They don't. They don't even have sustainable electricity or energy. So the question about resilience and rooted resilience is inequity also that needs to be brought up. And we will hear from them, in terms of what are these inequities and how do they see. For the longest time, what has happened is that we have seen communities on the grassroots as benefactors of donations. Give you a project, 1 year project, 1 साल का project देंगे. You all do your project on millet farming. You all do your project on mawa farming, right? All these, they're given as, very time-bound projects. But what has happened over the years is that we have not considered the communities as co-creators of exactly what do they want, what do they need, and how do they develop and they will share with you all, right? Their experience they will share in terms of what exactly the community needs for not a 1 year project, but for long-term resilience. And this is what is happening. The corporates do not understand that. There is no perspective of long-term resilience within a CSR project. Anybody working on CSR over here? Any corporate person working on CSR over here? Do you all give projects for longer than 1 year or 2 years? You all do. What kind of projects do you all give? Take the mic, na. Just trying to understand, so it'll be nice.
So we look at long-term projects and livelihood through our foundation. Magdara is one of their partners, Axis Bank Foundation. And we also work in environmental sustainability, education. So these are all long-term projects because as a corporate, as against probably a very myopic view that most people have is that corporates only want to do 1 or 2 year program, but that is not the case. For any change to happen, it takes a minimum of 3 years for the effects to show on ground. And if you really want to make that impact, keep aside what the MCA rules say about impact assessment and all that. But if you are really interested in making a change, you have to be there on the long term.
Absolutely.
It cannot be a short-term one, except where the program design is such that it is a input-output kind of a model. And therefore, we believe that a minimum 3 to 4 years is necessary, and that's how we kind of support the project.
Exactly. Thank you for this. And this is what we're looking at, right? And there are very few corporates who look in that this thing. It's not that NGOs have a myopic view, but the experience from all of them will also tell you that you go to them, they will say 1 year project, 2 year project. But it's not. It's the system that needs to change, right? And why this is happening is because resilience cannot be quantified. How do you quantify a good life? How do you quantify a climate-ready life? And maybe I can put this to you all, as you said, right? Resilience. So taking one step further, how do you quantify that your communities and your farmers and the benefactors that you all are working with, that they are now resilient? And what are the kinds of parameters you think that corporates should be looking at?
For resilience, adaptation is important. ये जो सभी क्लाइमेट चेंज का इशू है, इसमें 3 वर्ड जो है वो बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट वर्ड है. पहला होलिस्टिक अप्रोच, दूसरा जो है इंटीग्रेशन, और थर्ड जो है डाइवर्सिटी. ये तीनों का मिक्सचर ही इसमें हमें मतलब एक क्लाइमेट चेंज के जो प्रॉब्लम है इसको सॉल्व कर सकता है. मैं थोड़ा एग्जांपल देके ये बताना चाहता हूँ. अभी हम देखें 10 साल का रेनफॉल का डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन डिफरेंट है, और मतलब वो नॉट फेवरेबल टू एग्रीकल्चरल प्रैक्टिसेस. फिर भी इसमें जो टॉलरेट कर सके या उनका क्या मिटिगेशन टेक्नोलॉजी ऐसे देखे, तो उसमें पहला हमें आता है इंटीग्रेटेड फार्मिंग सिस्टम. मतलब जो किसान के पास इंटीग्रेटेड फार्मिंग सिस्टम है, मतलब उनके पास थोड़ा सीजनल क्रॉप है, थोड़ा पेरेनियल फ्रूट क्रॉप का थोड़ा 4-2 पेड़ है, फिर गोटरी है, लाइव स्टॉक है, तो वो थोड़ा इसमें मतलब सस्टेन कर सकते हैं। दूसरा, जिनका डाइवर्सिफाइड, मतलब अभी अडाप्टेशन, मतलब पहिले तो अडॅप्टेबल सीड चाहिए,
Yes, absolutely.
स्टेबल सीड, म्हणजे स्टेबल सीड या स्टेबल जीनोटाइप फॉर चेंजिंग द एनवायरनमेंट, मतलब जो क्लाइमेट चेंज हो रहा है उसमें स्टेबल परफॉर्मेंस देने वाला जीनोटाइप है। तो जो किसान के पास उनका ट्रेडिशनल सीड है, मतलब सालों तक वो उगाते आए उसको, तो उसको थोड़ा स्क्रीनिंग, मतलब उधर टेक्निकल सपोर्ट की ज़रूरत है, उसको स्क्रीनिंग। मैं एक हमारा प्रोजेक्ट का उसमें बताता हूँ। मैं सोलापुर डिस्ट्रिक्ट से हूँ, तो सोलापुर का स्टेपल फूड जो है सोरगम है, जवार। अभी सोरगम का ट्रेडिशनली सोइंग जो है वो 15 सितंबर टू 15 अक्टूबर के बीच में रहता है। लेकिन अभी गेले पास्ट 5 ईयर्स में वो डेट चेंज हो रहा है बिकॉज ऑफ रेनफॉल। कभी वो दिसंबर में करना पड़ता है, कभी नवंबर के लास्ट वीक में करना पड़ता है। तो इसमें क्या करेंगे, अभी मेरा जो सीड है मैं सालों से उगाता आया हूँ, उसका प्रॉपर सीजन है 15 सितंबर टू 15 अक्टूबर, लेकिन मुझे अभी सोइंग बारिश की वजह से 15 नवंबर को करना पड़ रहा है, 15 दिसंबर को करना पड़। तो ये पूरा स्क्रीनिंग करके तो हमने क्या किया, कलेक्शन ऑफ सोरगम सीड सितंबर के फर्स्ट वीक से दिसंबर के लास्ट वीक, हर वीक में स्कैटर्ड उसका सोइंग किया। तो उसमें जो हमें स्टेबल परफॉर्मेंस की वैरायटी मिली, तो वो हमारे जो प्रोजेक्ट के किसान हैं उनको हमने दे दिया कि मतलब ये सितंबर के फर्स्ट वीक से दिसंबर के लास्ट वीक तक एवरेज उसका परफॉर्मेंस थोड़ा स्टेबल है। तो वो आपने ये किया, तो उसमें जेनेटिक, मतलब उसमें थोड़ा जेनेटिक टर्मिनोलॉजी, प्लास्टिसिटी होगा, वो क्लाइमेट चेंज को एडजस्ट करेगा, ये करेगा। तो ऐसा मतलब खाली ट्रेडिशनल सीड नहीं, तो उसमें स्क्रीनिंग की भी ज़रूरत है। डाइवर्सिफाइड क्रॉपिंग सिस्टम भी बहुत ज़रूरी है, मतलब 17 डेज में आने वाला ग्रीन ग्राम भी चाहिए, 90 to 100 डेज में आने वाला ब्लैक ग्राम भी चाहिए, 180 डेज में आने वाला रेड ग्राम पिजन पी भी चाहिए मेरे खेत में, बाजरा भी चाहिए 120 डेज में आने वाला। तो ऐसा डाइवर्सिफाइड किया, और उसमें थोड़ा सिस्टमेटिक, मतलब डाइवर्सिफाइड सोचेंगे तो फिर हमें थोड़ा कवि कल्पना जैसा हम सोचते हैं कि ऐसा सभी होगा मेरे खेत में, उसमें थोड़ा सिस्टमेटिक भी होना चाहिए,
साइंटिफिक ऑल्सो,
हाँ साइंटिफिक सिस्टमेटिक। तो ऐसा करके उसमें हम अडॉप्ट कर सकेंगे कि जो किसान ऐसा कर सकते हैं उनको थोड़ा टेक्निकल सपोर्ट, क्योंकि इतना बहुत सारा चेंज हो रहा है कि खाली ट्रेडिशनल नॉलेज पर भी डिपेंड नहीं रह सकते, इतना चेंज हो रहा है, नया नए पेस्ट इंसिडेंस हो रहा है। अभी मेज पे सोलापुर डिस्ट्रिक्ट के फार्मर बताते हैं, कोई भी ओल्ड फार्मर, कि 5 साल के पहले मेज में कोई पेस्ट आता नहीं था, अभी 5 साल से उसमें बोरर करके, मतलब वो सकिंग पेस्ट आता है। तो ये नया, ये मेज
एग्जैक्टली।
तो इसमें सोल्यूशन निकालना पड़ेगा। तो इंटीग्रेशन, होलिस्टिक अप्रोच, डाइवर्सिटी, ये सभी के साथ हमें जाना होगा।
No, absolutely. And the whole idea is that it is rooted in knowledge, traditional knowledge, indigenous knowledge, and community knowledge, as well as now adapting to the new technologies that are there. And that is why I wanted to ask.
Just I want to quick a little bit, because I have a flight, that's why I am quite hurried to say something. So one thing is the resilient. What is the resilient example? So which can survive in the drought or flood region, which variety, which food items, which food basket, that is the important. If any family who can survive in the drought time, their diet diversity less destruct, their farm diversity less destruct, that is the resilient farming pattern, resilient family, resilient farmers. So that is one thing, and it's available. Just 2 example. I am a farmer. I started as a farmer in very early, in 17 years age, 30 years before. So when I started, that year drought was quite high, and my teacher, he's the indigenous farmer, he taught me the drought is real bad, but drought is not always bad. You have to learn with the drought always. So you can try to find which varieties is survive in this drought that can help you in the future. And we mapped some wheat varieties.
Very nice.
And that wheat varieties is still in the market. I percolate and I germinate and many. So that was, and it's 30 years. Same the green gram. We have changed a lot in policy aspect. The green gram is a summer gram. And we started with the 30 farmers. Now I don't know, but yes, it's very much clear. Around 365% times not shown area has increased in that tribal region. So that is the second part in the summer. And third is that how the family can map their diet diversity. So it's not only one or two food items, it's a completely uncultivated food and many things.
Food basket.
Food basket. So third is the that part. Every year we did the Padyatras, foot march, long foot march, 300 kilometers, 400, 500,000 kilometers in the tribal area and different part of the area. 2016, we discussed with the community. When you was in the young, we asked the elder people, when you was young, what you were cultivated, and they shared some different type of millets, pigeon pea and like this. And fortunately today after lunch I heard from Amit ji, he is now pigeon pea. He got the seed from Vagdara and now it's in Maharashtra. That seed identified during the Padyatra and is the perennial pigeon pea. So the thing is important in the last, the resilient practice or resilient knowledge only and only can find with the indigenous wisdom. You have to dialogue with the intergenerational dialogue. You have to dialogue with the nature. You have to dialogue with the family, how we can survive. When you talk with the nature, you can find the how nature can survive. Definitely water can lose in the water body, but water can possible in the soil. That you has to understand.
Thanks, Amit ji. In fact, very valid points, and I'm going to come to you, with regards to, we're talking about indigenous knowledge, and you have been working in the field with on biodiversity as well, right? With herbal-based medicines and also with the farmers. That conversation that we had in the morning in terms of skills, or in terms of what do young people now, how do you capacitate them for these kinds of new, old wisdom as well as new technologies that are coming in? They have to be abreast. Yeah.
Can I add one thing?
Please.
So the part of the technology, so always we discuss the technology is the meal. There you can crush the grain for the flour, but you can't crush the stone for prepare the soil, because the many things is available as a live in the soil, microbes, minerals, biomass.
Yeah.
That has to very much clear. So technology can't help for the living thing.
No, not at all.
Second part, seed can't be produced in the mill machine. It definitely it's only and only grown in the farm. We can use the technology. How can find the proper seed, which is, and the wisdom also has the practice, the technological practice. We have to try to identify. Let us example, the around 15,000 women decided we will prepare the technological improved biofertilizer at our farmhouse, and usually they put the cow dung openly in the, so we convergence with the government and design the peat with the government with the MNREGA, and then we put the rock phosphate and phosphorus soluble bacteria. entire bacteria, that culture, and then community percolate with the all 15,000 family. And now when we did the test in the lab, how much is the phosphorus or what is the so it the result was quite really very nice, and
Yeah.
the entire action research done by the agriculture university. So that is the technological
Yes,
intervention
exactly.
happen. Same the indigenous varieties, we always, when we find the any new variety, we always try to put the lab, what is the food, their nutritive values of any food items, indigenous food items, then we can share with the community, this is the nutri-rich food.
Absolutely. And so, but this is what I wanted to bring about is that how is the communities now being part of this conversation? I mean, I think Amit ji can talk about that in terms of them being part of the scientific data that is coming in. Rather, it's us giving back to them, right? So how do you look at it? Because young people now are looking for a kind of a
But we have
job,
to find the
right?
community scientist rather than the
Understood.
scientist only.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how do you encourage that with the young people in your communities?
हमने तो यूथ वाला जो है तो उसमें CFR का जो एक्ट CFR है, फिर पंचायत पैसा एक्ट है, उसी को लेके और कम्युनिटी का खुद का नॉलेज, खुद का सिस्टम्स, उन्हीं ये दोनों का मिला के हमने कम्युनिटी के साथ काम किया। और वहाँ का जो यानी उसमें से जो यंग लीडर्स है उनको जो उनके टेक्निक्स है कि समाज की टेक्निक है उनका ट्रेनिंग किया है। और हमारे यहाँ पे अभी कोलाम कम्युनिटीज़ जो है PVTGs कम में आते हैं तो उनका हनी बी है, उससे रॉक बीज से हनी जो निकालते हैं उसका क्रूड मेथड था, यानी पूरा जला के उसको वो पूरा काट के निकालते थे। लेकिन हमने फिर अभी जो ये पूरा चेंजेस आ रहा है तो उसमें मधुमक्खी भी बचनी चाहिए, क्योंकि ये पूरे इसमें मधुमक्खी का सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट रोल है। तो उसमें नई पीढ़ी वाले जो यंग है उनको भी और पुराने भी जो एल्डर्स है उनको ट्रेनिंग दिया कि सस्टेनेबल हार्वेस्टिंग हम कैसा कर सकते हैं, उसका स्टोरेज का क्या है, उनका मार्केटिंग का क्या है, कहाँ कहाँ मार्केटिंग हम कर सकते हैं, लोकल जगह पे कहाँ है मार्केटिंग के जगह। तो ये पूरा उनको हमने ट्रेनिंग दिया है कि जैसा हम अभी चेंजेस की बात कर रहे हैं तो मधुमक्खी को बी कीपिंग वाला हमारे इधर फेल्यूर है, क्योंकि हमारे इधर जो टेम्परेचर जाता है तो उसमें बी कीपिंग उतना सक्सेसफुल नहीं है। लेकिन जो रॉक बीज है वो वहाँ पे पानी रहना चाहिए, वहाँ पे फ्लोरा रहना चाहिए, उस टाइप का भी उनको देखने के लिए। और वहाँ पे वो सीड सोइंग के जैसा फॉरेस्ट बीज का सीड सोइंग वो भी करने का हमने उनको ट्रेनिंग दिया है। और जो पहले सितंबर से लेके मई तक यानी 3 बार हनी मिलता था, अभी तो वैसा एक ही बार मिल रहा है, यानी पलाश फ्लावरिंग के बाद यानी अप्रैल मई में। तो उनको भी जितना भी मधुमक्खी है उनको कैसा बचाया जा सके तो इसका हमने उनको ट्रेनिंग दिया है और ये पूरी इस तरीके से सस्टेनेबल हार्वेस्टिंग करते हैं।
Wow, thank you. In fact, this is all leading to the challenge before us is not that whether traditional knowledge is better than innovation or innovation is better than traditional knowledge, but the idea is that how do we make both of them work together for a real resilient community for this thing. So we are seeing the threads of resilience already there with regards to community engagement, with regards to capacity building of communities, with regards to scientific data coming in that is leading to those kinds of innovations. I just want to start the next conversation leading it because also Jayji has to leave with regards to bringing the whole conversation on finance and finance for climate action and climate resilience and community resilience to the table. And just from all of you, or maybe Amit ji, you can go first in terms of what do you perceive as when you're looking at long-term resilience, when CSRs and philanthropies and funding agencies need to look at, what are those parameters from your experience that they should put on the agenda as a priority?
The Resilient intervention is definitely part of the CSR activities. Only thing is important, what language you are using in front of them.
Yes.
That is important. What you want to ask, if you are asking is not very much clear, so always is a trouble. The wisdom is your wisdom. The indigenous wisdom is important, but if I talk, if I ask any CSR, we want to preserve the indigenous wisdom, that can be difficult. But if I ask any CSR, we have a sustainable livelihood solution with the indigenous wisdom, definitely they will attract. So that is very much important. What is our language?
The communication also, how you communicate.
Communicate, how, and second part, definitely this is a practice. The resilient is a practice. This is a part of program. So any design, and it's not only climate. If we talk about the knowledge or so, how, because in the nowadays, I don't want to say, but the entire political scenario is not resilient. So that is another problem. So that
No, the systems themselves are not resilient, right? So how can the communities be resilient then? And how do you bring those those systemic changes for climate resilience and sustainability for this thing? Dr. Karande, with regards to your experience in terms of the funding that you have been part of, the funding scenario, and what do you think those changes that you think that corporates need to look at when we are talking about, again, building on what he's saying, right? But the situation is different and the context is different also. What do you think that needs to be prioritized?
मुझे लगता है थोड़ा एक्शन रिसर्च की भी ज़रूरत है एग्रीकल्चर में. एक्शन रिसर्च से हमें जो समस्या, जो बदलती समस्या है, वो थोड़ा समझ में आ जाएगी. दूसरा ये होगा कि अभी देखो, बिकॉज ऑफ क्लाइमेट चेंज, मेरा खरीफ, मानसून और विंटर है, दोनों भी सीज़न, मतलब ये है, मतलब मुझे दोनों का सीज़न फेल होने की ज़्यादा प्रोबेबिलिटी बढ़ रही है, दोनों भी सीज़न. तो एक्शन रिसर्च ऐसा होना चाहिए कि कोई स्मॉल मार्जिनल फार्मर है, उसको इंटीग्रेटेड फार्मिंग की तरफ लेने का है, मतलब उसका खाली सीजनल क्रॉप की डिपेंडेंसी कम करने की है. अगर हम उनको थोड़ा प्रोटेक्टिव इरिगेशन का कुछ फैसिलिटी दे सकते हैं, तो उसका लाइवलीहुड ऑप्शन कैसे बढ़ जाता है, उसको माइग्रेशन करने की ज़रूरत नहीं आती. अभी माइग्रेशन का सिनेरियो देखो, मराठवाड़ा रीजन में बिफोर 15 जुलाई तक सोइंग को फेवरेबल बरसात नहीं हुई, तो 15 जुलाई के बाद में मराठवाड़ा के 80% गांव से लोग पुनः मुंबई में आते हैं, अगर लेट मानसून हो जाएगी तो, क्योंकि उनको सोयाबीन का सोइंग करना नहीं आता आफ्टर 15 जुलाई के बाद. तो अगर हम थोड़ा एक्शन रिसर्च करेंगे, थोड़ा उनको, मतलब 50 बेर के पेड़ दिया हमने, हमारे प्रोजेक्ट में वो जो किया है वो मैं बता रहा हूँ. 50 बेर के पेड़ दिए उनको, वो 2-3 साल तक आएंगे, फ्रूट बेरिंग होगा 2-3 साल में उसमें. तब तक वो हमने उसमें एक्शन रिसर्च किया, तो उनको क्या हो जाएगा, उनको एक ऑप्शन मिल जाएगा. 2-4 गोट्री दिया, मतलब गोड़ दिया उनको, तो कुछ तो ये मिल जाएगा. तो ऐसा भी ज़रूरत है. दूसरा ज़रूरत है कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग का. मैंने जो कहा कि मतलब फार्मर, मतलब पूरा डिस्ट्रिक्ट का एक प्रॉब्लम नहीं, डिस्ट्रिक्ट में ब्लॉक लेवल पर अलग अलग है. मैं बारसी तहसील का एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ. बारसी तहसील में अगलगांव करके एक ब्लॉक है. 2023 में पूरे डिस्ट्रिक्ट में सबसे कम बारिश उधर थी. लास्ट ईयर में सबसे ज़्यादा बारिश उधर हो गई. एट सेम टाइम सांगोला तहसील में दूसरे ब्लॉक में डिफरेंट सिनेरियो था. तो ये पूरा समझने के लिए भी एक्शन रिसर्च की जरूरत है और कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग की जरूरत है.
And in fact, I'm coming to you, Amit ji. Very valid point you made is when we talk about data also coming in of vulnerabilities for communities. A district level data is so different from what happens on a village level. That village is having the drought, but the district does not show it's having a drought. So understanding again that resilience is very, very micro. It is very, very community, the smaller you go, the more data you will be able to understand the resilience and the vulnerabilities of these communities. And thank you for bringing that up with, this thing, because otherwise when we look at, and all of us are working on small projects, right? When you see big projects coming, $1 million projects, looking at state level action, it's so difficult to bring this conversation on resilience up. And Amitji, adding to what both of them have said, with regards to the skills, you have been working with skills and with working with, what are the skills that communities are going to require, from your understanding on biodiversity, on farming. Now also innovation, as we are saying, is happening. It's not that our communities need to be part of that conversation, and you added to that, right? But what are the kinds of justice related skills that need to be brought to the table that can be worked with agricultural institutes, can be brought with, now we are seeing so many startups working in the food, and every startup is a sustainable startup, but we know what the reality is. So to bring that perspective, how do you see the youth of your communities being part of the skills?
मैंने अभी जैसा हनी के बारे में बताया, वैसा ही हमने छोटा इंटरवेंशन बांस के लिए किया है कि बांस के जो कारीगर है तो उसमें भी यंग जो है उनको भी इन्वॉल्व किया है, और बाकी जो पुराने हैं उनका ज्ञान, यानी कम्युनिटी जो ट्राइबल कम्युनिटी है उनका भी कुछ ज्ञान है। ये पूरा क्लाइमेट को, हम जो फॉरेस्ट को, वहाँ पानी को लेके, एग्रीकल्चर को लेके, तो उनके ज्ञान को भी हमने ध्यान में रख के उनको एक उस रिलेटेड ट्रेनिंग देना चाहिए। जैसा हम वैद्यों के साथ में भी काम करते हैं, जो ट्रेडिशनल हीलर्स है उनके साथ में, तो अभी उनको गोली बनाना हमने सिखाया है, उस टाइप का स्किल उनको। ये ऑयल पेन किलर के जैसे ऑयल का है, कुछ क्रीम है, तो ऐसे छोटे छोटे अगर हम इंटरवेंशन उनके साथ करते हैं तो वो वहाँ के कम्युनिटी के लिए बहुत अच्छा रहेगा और उनको वो एक्सेप्ट भी करेंगे। वैसा ही अगर हमने एग्रीकल्चर में अभी बायोचार बनाने का ट्रेनिंग दिया है कि जो वेस्ट, यानी पूरा पहले तो हमारे यहाँ पे जो कॉटन प्लांट है उसको पूरा जलाने का सिस्टम था, लेकिन वो भी हमने अभी धीरे धीरे वो चेंज में ला रहे हैं। और वैसा ही ये कंपोस्ट खाद का है, तो ऐसे जो छोटे छोटे इंटरवेंशन है इसको लेके काम करना चाहिए, ऐसा मुझे लगता है। जैसे हमने वागदारा में और इधर महाराष्ट्र में धारणी में भी किचन गार्डन के जो देखा है, तो उसको भी वहाँ के जो ट्रेडिशनल सीड है उसकी टेक्निक बढ़ाने का, और वहाँ वो हम कैसा बढ़ा सकते हैं कि फूड सिक्योरिटी की हम बात कर रहे हैं कि सर ने अभी जैसा बताया, तो ये सब न्यूट्रिशंस फूड का जो बचाने का है, तो उसके लिए मुझे लगता है कि ये छोटे छोटे इंटरवेंशन की अगर ट्रेनिंग्स और जानकारी हम देंगे तो बहुत अच्छा रहेगा।
Yeah, very good. And in fact, what we are seeing that it's not only one system, right? It's a different, whether it is governance, whether it is capacity building, whether it is on technology innovation, whether it is on skills, various things, and also on governance, right? For this thing. And Jayesh, I know you have to leave, but how much time do you have? Do you leave? 5-10 minutes? Okay. So then we open the floor to some questions before, and then you can think. We want to say something? Huh. No, I just wanted to say, so, we can open the floor to the question, for questions with regards to, some reflections, whether some lessons, some kind of, maybe sharing, or you don't agree with what we have said, would be happy to.
Any question from me directly.
Yeah, first we'll answer Jayesh ji's question.
Okay.
No, if any question from me.
Is there any question for Jayesh ji?
Jayesh bhai, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So sorry, but we know you that you have done a Padayatra. Then Swaraj Samvad was one of the very innovative and proven model that we have seen last year and before that too. So one side, as you mentioned, there is an opportunity to find out the rooted resilience in the community, and on the other side there is a finance, CSR, philanthropies, they are sitting on the other side of the table. So what do you find common bridge and alignment between both of them? One, you said that the language is one of the thing, how you pitch your program to them is one thing, but this is again from this side. But what are those things we can suggest to the other side of table, which will help us to find out the common ground, to find out and support and strengthen the rooted resilience?
So one problem, I am not the other side.
I know,
That
I know.
is the problem. So I can't say what they are thinking. But yes, the community side, one more thing. If we are here, so we can provide or we can produce the real community aspiration, community data, community programs, sustainable programs, everything. So that side can attract with that real solution, real data, a real aspiration. It's not clear if any CSR corporate person is here, so it's
They can.
difficult to say. But like me, it's very difficult to reach them,
Yeah.
and we can't reach. It's very simple. The grassroots people targeting is very, very difficult. So, but like Axis Bank Foundation, it's another example. Before last year Padyatra, during the Padyatra, I got a call from the person. We heard about Wagda, we want to reach, and then now we are partner. So होता है, ऐसा नहीं होता है, but it's take time.
Yes, anyone want?
Please introduce yourself also, and where you're coming from, and
Hello, sirs. My name's Mayank. I'm from Indian Grameen Services. I'm an associate there. So, मुझे आप सबसे ये पूछना था, and पूरे पैनल के लिए है कि मतलब climate is a major problem. जैसे आप कह रहे थे कि even though maybe it's 1 degree, but globally now there's a pact कि we want to keep emissions under a certain amount ताकि the temperature stays under a certain degree and all of that, right? तो इसके लिए जैसे बहुत सारे एट स्केल सॉल्यूशंस अभी डिस्कस किए जा रहे हैं, जैसे देयर इज अ कार्बन क्रेडिट मार्केट, like organizations like big tech organizations, they fund a lot of carbon credits to offshoot their whatever comes from their factories and stuff like that. तो सर मुझे ये जानना था कि लोकल क्लाइमेट सॉल्यूशंस आप सबकी इतनी मतलब इतना रिच एक्सपीरियंस है, कुछ है जो स्केल किया जा सकता है, मतलब आपने एक्सपीरियंस किया हो, विच इफ स्केल कैन रियली help us meet our targets to like keep the temperature down and stuff like that.
So Mayank, it's a hypothetical statement, but खुला छोड़ दो उस प्रकृति को, व्यापार मत करो, वो सबसे बड़ा सॉल्यूशन है. नेचर के साथ जब तक व्यापार होता रहेगा तब तक ये चैलेंज होते रहेंगे. That is the problem. But yes, the solution is available. The indigenous practices and lifestyle is the only and only sustainable solution. They are custodian of 5 things: soil, seed, water, vegetation, livestock, and their culture. And that is the best solution for sustainability. And that all offshore and the thing business, carbon credit, carbon market, it's all is the closed door discussion. It's never help to the real custodian community.
आपका जो क्वेश्चन है उसका मैं थोड़ा छोटा सा सॉल्यूशन बताता हूँ कि व्हाट इज़ द ऑब्जेक्टिव ऑफ फार्मिंग, ऐसा हमने सोचा तो उसमें फूड सिक्योरिटी, न्यूट्रिशनल सिक्योरिटी, फार्मर को इनकम मिलना चाहिए, उनका लाइवलीहुड बढ़ना चाहिए. अब ये सभी के लिए और ये सभी ध्यान में रख के हम जो 1 मिनट में हमारे प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में बताता हूँ कि और दूसरे शुरुआत में मैंने कहा कि डाइवर्सिटी नेसेसरी है. अभी डाइवर्सिटी चाहिए लेकिन वो सिस्टमेटिक वे से. तो हमारे प्रोजेक्ट में हम क्या करते हैं, क्रॉप रोटेशन, इंटरक्रॉपिंग, मिक्सड क्रॉपिंग, मल्टीपल कैश क्रॉप, मल्टीपल पल्स क्रॉप अकॉर्डिंग टू सॉइल हेल्थ, ऐसा सभी क्रॉप करते. तो उसमें सिस्टमेटिक वे से बिठाया तो सभी ऑब्जेक्टिव फुलफिल हो सकते हैं. मतलब मल्टीपल पल्स क्रॉप मेरा न्यूट्रिशनल सिक्योरिटी करेगा और मेरा सॉइल का सस्टेनेबल हेल्थ मैनेजमेंट होगा सॉइल का. मल्टीपल कैश क्रॉप मुझे जो क्लाइमेट का रिस्क है, मतलब क्लाइमेट का रिस्क हो या मार्केट का रिस्क हो, वो बेरिंग कैपेसिटी मुझ में आएगा अगर मैं मोनोक्रॉपिंग लूँगा. और वो मल्टीपल कैश क्रॉप also important for sustainable soil health management. तो ऐसा पूरा इंटीग्रेटेड होलिस्टिक अप्रोच से सोल्यूशन निकालना पड़ेगा. और वो सोल्यूशन निकालते समय फार्मर कम्युनिटी का क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन है, हमारे जो नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज वो कैसा प्रोटेक्ट होने चाहिए, और कंज्यूमर के लिए क्या, कंज्यूमर का क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन है, वो पूरा ख्याल में रख के हमारे प्रोजेक्ट का डिज़ाइन हमने किया है. और 5 साल, अभी 31 तारीख को हमारे प्रोजेक्ट को 5 साल हो जाएगा. तो उसके रिजल्ट जो है वो हमें मतलब उत्साह बढ़ाने वाले रिजल्ट है. पूरा सिस्टमेटिक वे से किया तो हो जाएगा. हमारे यहाँ क्या होता है, हम डॉट डॉट में सोचते हैं, मतलब न्यूट्रिशनल सिक्योरिटी अलग से है, सॉइल हेल्थ मैनेजमेंट अलग सा है, फार्मर का लाइवलीहुड ऑप्शन जो है वो अलग है. ये अभी सभी क्रॉप डाइवर्सिटी में ही उनको लाइव स्टॉक का भी फॉडर का रिक्वायरमेंट फुलफिल होना चाहिए. फॉडर की खेती करने के लिए अलग से खेती नहीं है हमारे पास, मार्जिनल फार्मर है, इसमें ही होना चाहिए. मतलब न्यूट्रिशनल सिक्योरिटी, सॉइल हेल्थ मैनेजमेंट, फॉडर फुलफिलमेंट, ये सभी करके जो होगा वो प्रकृति का प्रोटेक्शन के लिए भी वही होगा. ऐसा होलिस्टिक अप्रोच है.
Let me just summarize what you are asking for. You have a two-pronged question.
So there's one thing that I forgot to add.
Yeah.
Also, sir, like when I was in college, which wasn't, मतलब I've just finished my masters, एक प्रोफेसर आए थे गेस्ट लेक्चरर, और उन्होंने कहा था कि जो ये जैसे स्विट्ज़रलैंड वगैरह में जो ये पैनल्स होते हैं, they come in like, you know, jets and stuff like that, and then they burn so much fuel, and then they talk about, you know, like how important it is to like work for the climate. And like a lot of these big companies, right, they're plastic producers and things like that. And बहुत important है कि we connect this to an economic मतलब reward, because that's just how the human psyche works. जैसे सर आप कह रहे थे कि soil health improve होगा, फिर farmer adopt करेगा उस practice को, right? So that's kind of that I had missed that in my initial question.
Understood. I got what you're saying. So your question is two-pronged. One is, what is the root cause of climate change, which is a fossil fuel problem, and we are all responsible for that, especially as I said, right, the carbon footprint. Now what has happened is, because of the carbon in the atmosphere, communities who are the least responsible for that are facing the most problem, where their health and nutrition is at risk, right? As I gave that example, right, with the heat waves, I'll put my AC on, they don't have an AC on. So how do you, once again, that bringing that conversation in terms of, number one is first reducing carbon emissions. Secondly, also I want to highlight that carbon emissions in India, about 15% of the emissions in India come from agriculture. Now how? Right, from practices, and Dr. Karande will be able to tell you in terms of why we are saying organic, because most of it comes from chemical fertilizers that then create nitrous oxide into the atmosphere. So these are the ways that, where these communities, why should they be doing that? They don't, at the end of the day, they need to figure out they're getting their yield, right? But the responsibility again is coming on them. Why we are saying? Because we are saying organic food is what is going to be required for climate carbon emissions. So the responsibility again is coming on these communities. But it's fine, because we're all responsible at the end of the day, right? It's fine, because at the end of the day, we are consuming the organic food, right? For the food is one part, but then we're also talking about, you're talking about large scale. Can it be scaled up? Only thing that can be scaled up is electricity generation. You can have windmill farms, you can have solar parks, and we're also seeing that is the problem with communities, because all of them have got probably windmill and solar parks. Rajasthan mein, Maharashtra mein, they've got windmill and solar park, large solar parks. They will also tell you. But the communities who have got those solar parks within their vicinity do not even have 24-hour generation.
So
because that
decentralized renewable energy, that is the important.
So that is why we are saying, don't focus on large scale projects. Look at decentralized renewable projects. Look at projects that are addressing the vulnerabilities of these communities. So if you have solar rooftops within a district, which will give them the power to, so they have the agency of the solutions as well. With the large scale projects, communities don't have agency and they don't have the power to, control what is happening. So that is what we're saying. Look at, and you're young, look at it from, how do you look at decentralized solutions? Waste management, biochar, all these are where the community owns that. Today the farmer wants to do it, tomorrow he doesn't need to do it. But he's got it and he can sell the product. As opposed to a startup that is coming in from they're gone there and listing the land. So the idea is looking at decentralized solutions, looking at agency of the communities who then manage these solutions that are coming to the ground. And making it accessible and affordable for everybody.
नहीं, और मुझे ये लगता है कि ये इनसे जुड़ के हुए कि जैसा CFR का मैनेजमेंट प्लान बनाना है तो वहाँ पे कम्युनिटी इन्वॉल्व है और पैसा के जैसा भी में भी कम्युनिटी इन्वॉल्व है. तो ऐसे अगर छोटे छोटे प्लान विलेज लेवल पे जहाँ पे कम्युनिटी इन्वॉल्व हो तो वो अगर बनाए जाए तो वो फ़ायदेमंद रहेंगे. हम देखते हैं कि शहरों में या स्टेट लेवल पे प्लान बनाते हैं और विलेज लेवल पे प्रॉब्लम वैसा ही रह जाता है जो आप बोल रहे थे वैसे. तो अभी ये भी प्रक्रिया कहीं कहीं जगह पे शुरू हुई है तो वो ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है.
So when you're talking solutions, there's lot mobility, there is infrastructure, housing, there is, food and nutrition, water, how do you pump water? So there's a lot of aspects to it. But the idea is that if you bring it, decentralize it, then communities are able to then have the power to manage those. And this is what all organizations working here looking at capacity building and community, leadership is when we're talking about these solutions. Thank you. Any other questions that were? Restaurant?
Here the good afternoon. See here the local climate solution I indicate three things. One is the mitigation plans and the adaptation plan. The third one is the contingency plan when disaster attacks. So these plans depend upon the risk analysis of the particular community. It's a hazard profile analysis and the vulnerability analysis with regard to the object or with regard to the location and the community capacity. So this solution, local climate solution depends upon community to community. Even within the one taluk we cannot generalize. So this has to be, as he said, this has to be planned. These three plans has to be planned with the community having their own traditional knowledge, and they have to be familiarized with planning of these climate solutions. That plan has to be supported from the CSR or from the local panchayat or from the government. So the first thing is that we should make the people to familiarize from the existing traditional knowledge to come out with the profile analysis, hazard profile analysis and the vulnerability analysis and their own community capacity assessment and come out with their three plans. The mitigation plan, adaptation plan and the contingency plan whenever a disaster strikes. Thank you.
Thank you. And adding, and I think all can also add to that, is that coming up with these plans and the data, first of all, it is so difficult for organizations to get data on that is relevant. And so we have to collect our own data. And many CSR projects don't afford to do that, especially coming up with data collection and, then strategizing, right? Because your CSR projects usually ask for a proposal immediately. And what is the intervention and what is the activity that you're going to be doing? But they don't take into this thing that we need to collect data. That data needs to be analyzed. That has to be then structurally put into, the kind of strategy that needs to be built. And this is where organizations need support for, building that. And also having convenings like this, right? Otherwise it's only activities. It's only activities and then the learning doesn't happen, the sharing doesn't happen, and the kind of collaborations don't happen if the CSR projects don't afford to do that. So any last questions before we end? And we will end with three of them. If not, then just very briefly, because this thing is that going forward, what do you think that, as you've already said, that how do you build that convergence between community, between the CSR, and between long-term resilience? What do you see, Jayji, going forward?
So, the Samaj Sarkar Bajar has to always think the rooted solution is the sustainable solution, and it can help for sustainability when you phase out or you are in the both situation.
फार्मिंग कम्युनिटी का जो लिमिटेशन है, मतलब स्मॉल होल्डिंग और रिसोर्स पुअर फार्मर का जो है, और ये सभी का एक इफेक्ट ऐसा हो रहा है कि जो यंग पीपल है वो फार्मिंग में नहीं रुकना चाहते, वो माइग्रेट कर रहे हैं इसमें। तो माइग्रेशन और क्लाइमेट का मिटिगेशन, ये सभी इंटीग्रेटेड फार्मिंग सिस्टम में कैसा ये करने का, तो इंटीग्रेटेड फार्मिंग सिस्टम इज़ द सॉल्यूशन। और इंटीग्रेटेड फार्मिंग सिस्टम के लिए एक्शन रिसर्च, इंटीग्रेटेड फार्मिंग सिस्टम के लिए कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग, इंटीग्रेटेड फार्मिंग सिस्टम के लिए मतलब इंटीग्रेटेड फार्मिंग सिस्टम के लिए पब्लिक पॉलिसी, ऐसा सोच करनी चाहिए हमें।
थैंक यू।
मुझे लगता है कि कम्युनिटी का ज्ञान और टेक्नोलॉजी और उसमें यूथ का इन्वॉल्वमेंट, अगर हम ऐसा मिक्स करके काम करते हैं तो कुछ सॉल्यूशन निकल सकता है।
Absolutely. Thank you. So what common thread has emerged that resilience does not emerge in a setting like this, or in a boardroom, or in policy documents, or in project frameworks, but it starts with the communities, and that we all have understood that. It begins with the relationship that you all were talking about, right? With the land, with water, with livelihoods, with indigenous knowledge, and with one another. And for me, that is what being rooted really means. And also, this thinking about today was, in terms of things are changing. The climate is changing, the world is changing, our minds are changing, the conversations are changing. But the idea is to have strength, to have the wisdom and the adaptive capacity for all of us to respond to the change while remaining connected with all these things that sustain us. And that is what we are looking at, working with communities, because they are the ones that are sustaining the land, right? They are the ones that are sustaining the water, the systems, the biodiversity system. And so the thing leaving to you all is that these local solutions will continue. People will, whether you all support us or not, people will continue to make their own solutions to survive. Now the idea is how far you want to make sure that these communities continue to survive, and because if that link is destroyed, the link to our production and our consumption is also destroyed at the end of the day. So it affects our nutrition, food security, water security, all those things, if our communities are not supported. So on that note, I will end here, Swapnil, and thank you to all three of you. And he has to say a few words. Go ahead.
Okay, so thank you so much, dear all, and it was really enriching and thought-provoking discussion for us, and also we got some points to think on and take in action in our ongoing work too. This has also led some discussions towards discussions forward with some CSRs, philanthropies, या फिर हम लोग गवर्नमेंट के साथ भी कुछ कर सकते हैं. That we got from this conversation. Thank you so much again.